Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. This is where we come, right and left, to try to be reasonable. So there's a big headline. The feds finally caught the January 6th bomber, the man suspected of planting pipe bombs outside the RNC and DNC headquarters in D.C. just hours before the January 6th riots. You remember that? So the man they caught, that they say this is the guy, and let me tell you, looking at the evidence jacket that they put out, this is a lot of investigative work that points right at this guy, 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr., Woodbridge, Virginia, living just 30 minutes from the Capitol. He is proof of the biggest national security threat facing this country. But that's not what people seem to care about here. The curiosity is why it took about 5 years to get him. The Attorney General, while taking a victory lap with the FBI's Kash, Patel and Dan Bongino, I'll come back to that in a second. Anyway, the Attorney General seemed to blame the length of time on the Biden administration.
This cold case languished for 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI.
We did not discover any new information. What we did, brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do.
Folks, this is what it's like when you work for a president who tells you to go get the bad guys. It was due to the diligent and incredible work of a team in the Washington field office that came in and just scoured through this over and over and over and over again.
I'm glad they got the guy. I hope they can make a case beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm fine with them taking a victory lap. You should celebrate good things. It is good to get a bad guy like this if this is the right guy. I even get thanking the president. But blaming Biden? You know, there is no Trump or Biden FBI when it comes to the case agents who've been there for years. Now, I heard what they said about, well, we brought in new eyes. I don't know that that's true. You likely had at least some of the same people working on this case now as then. Why accuse them? Well, rage bait, of course. It's not good enough to have the win. Biden needs a loss. Why? Because it's the binary nature, zero sum. The Democrats always have to be bad for Republicans to be good. It's the coin of the realm, rage bait. But there is a legitimate basis for outrage here, and it has nothing to do with Biden. And I'm not talking about the conspiracies fed to MAGA that this was an inside job. Remember that? I don't know. I hope you never heard that before, because that means you're really too deep into social media. But, oh, they can't find the bomber because it's an inside guy. It was the FBI. Everybody there was from the FBI. Well, if that's true, guess what? Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, and Kash Patel, they're all part of the conspiracy, because they're now saying that this guy was not an inside guy. Putting that foolishness aside, the outrage here is who's celebrating and how they're explaining it. You know, there's an expression, gaining power doesn't change a person, it just makes them more of who they always were. For Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to stand up there and take credit for catching this guy means that everything they were saying before about this very investigation was complete BS. They know who he is, he's an inside guy, it was fixed, and I believe they knew back then that they were full of it. They were in the rage bait business, and this is the second time they have tried to pretend they don't have a past, and that ain't getting past me, and I'll explain why. This is not nitpicking, it's not a gotcha, it's not petty, okay? This is the root of what is wrong. The division in this country is largely manufactured for advantage, and it has been manufactured by people who weaponize information to make you think that you can only trust them and the other side is the devil. And Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were two of the guys who were powerful purveyors of exactly that, and it is not my opinion. Look.
There is a massive cover-up because the person who planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it was, because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or this was an inside job. There are going to be people in the FBI who are trying to protect their jobs. And they're going to start releasing information now about the bomber, which was an inside job, no question in my mind. It was clearly some Democrat operative
Do you think the Federal Bureau of Investigation can't find a bomber in the United States of America? Or there was some government ruse or some FBI rogue source? You get rewarded for your criminal cover-up government gangster operations.
Look at Benny Johnson. When Patel references government gangsters, it's a shameless plug of his book. See the game. Where was that BS today? Kash, where was it today? Dan, where was it? Where was the inside job? Where was that it's a Democratic operative? Where is all that stuff that you sold to poison people and get paid? The answer is the same reason they dropped the BS they used to sell about Epstein, okay? And I'll tell you why it pisses me off. Because these guys matter, and we need them in the positions that they're in, that they were gifted by this president. And I combat the BS that they put out there all the time. And now they get to stand up there. This is what happens when you work for a president who says, go get the bad guys, and this is what we did, and this is the guy. You were telling people they already knew who it was, and that it was a Democratic plant, and that the FBI was all about it. Now you're running that agency, and you don't say it anymore. The same reason you pretended you never said Epstein was murdered, you never said there was a client list that the deep state was keeping sealed, and now you are doing more redacting at the FBI that you both run than anyone has ever seen on those same files. Why? Why? Because they are part of the problem. They use rage bait to get paid by you, and they get you to click that button, and they'll say anything to make it happen. It's as simple as that, and the proof is the past versus the present. If they weren't lying then, why won't they admit it when they talk about it now under oath, like they wouldn't about Epstein? If it wasn't BS then, and they really believed it, why wouldn't he say today, hey, I thought this was a Democratic operative. I was wrong. Because, why, I get it. You can't say that. You can't say that. The president, unfortunately, is right. Apologizing is losing. You're right. I hate it. It's not what we teach our kids. It's not what you want in a civil society, but we're not a civil society right now, and we all know it. I get that. But we need him to be better. We have to, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. We need leaders in the positions that they're in. We need these guys to be worthy of the positions that the president gifted them. And I wish he had not. This team is not a good look for the president. They are not serving him well, in my opinion. And you could say, well, look, they just caught the guy. Yeah, they caught the guy that they said was a Democratic operative for years. They said it. Okay? Just say we should have never said the bomber was an FBI plant. We should have never said FBI was murdered. We shouldn't have said those things. We're working off the facts now, and here it is. Okay? And again, I don't want to own them. I don't want to even disrespect them. I want them to earn some respect. Because here's the deal, okay? While they were distracting all of you, or so many of you, really, hopefully none of you, because I hope you're critical thinkers and independent, which is why you seek out NewsNation. The boogeymen that they created have distracted us from the real threat, and this alleged bomber is Exhibit A. Another disaffected young American male living at home with his mom, isolated, aggravated, and driven to a desperate act in the name of destroying the system. This is the #1 national security threat in America. Extremists acting with violence. You do not have to be an extreme Islamist to be a fundamentalist and act on extreme ideas. And if you look at the political violence in our country, it is much more about other American homegrown people than it is imported jihadis. Look at the disgrace to my Italian ethnicity, this Mangione guy. 1 year ago today, he assassinated a healthcare CEO to make a point. We have more people in this country who are homegrown, radicalized here, and seem to hate America and are willing to act on that animus than at any other time in my life. It's being fed by social media, and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were the people among those feeding it. And the reason they need to own that is so that we can do what we need them to do now, okay? I don't care about the parties. I don't care about what party they're with. I see the two-party system as the problem, but we're all going to lose when there is more violence from guys just like this, and there will be more because the energy is all towards fomenting more as opposed to stopping it. And Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have to make a choice. Either you can be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. What are they going to choose? Let's get some perspective from someone who's done the job. Not about my political analysis, but how we got here with the case. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Gagliano. Jimmy, it's good to have you, brother. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. First, my assertion, you don't have a Biden FBI or a Trump FBI when you're talking about years of case investigation and analysis. Am I missing on that?
No. Chris, the FBI's been around for 117 years. They serve the executive branch. Obviously, the FBI director is a political appointee. He serves a 10-year term at the pleasure of the president. But, Chris, for years and years and years, there's been a certain separation and autonomy there. Now, one of the things I think that you nailed, and again, we're trying not to let the politics creep into the investigation portion of this. On the investigation, people are asking, Jimmy, why did it take 5 years to find this guy? Come on. I mean, they were arresting people in the January 6 riots. They were arresting them, off of still photographs. They had a ton of evidence, a ton of information. Why did it didn't happen? I don't think anybody slow-walked it, Chris. I still talk to people that work on the 7th floor. I still talk to people recently retired who worked this case. It wasn't slow-worked or slow-walked. These things take time. And look, they had a plethora of evidence. 2 unexploded devices. The problem with bombings, Chris, is usually the evidence is destroyed in the blast. In these, you had the signature of the bomber. Now, I'll say the signature in quotation marks because it was a clumsy effort. You could tell the way the bombs were put together, the component parts. Okay, here we are. We have cell phone pingings. We have still photos that line up. We have license plate readers that put his vehicle by the DNC offices, by the RNC offices. All these things are being put together. Now, let me fast forward to what you said about at the top. I have largely kept my tongue and said, I'm going to apostate. The new administration's only been in charge for a year. I've got to give them some time. Chris, you nailed it. They are playing Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino to an audience of one. They're playing to the president, and they're acting as if, and I hate to use this term, supplicants, instead of staying divorced from the White House and simply doing their job. Chris, there's a lot of guys like me that have held our tongue, and the more we've watched, the more politicized they complain about the politicization that happened in the last 4 years. And yet, Chris, every single press conference, instead of giving us the facts, they have to praise the president. They have to talk about how they are attacking violent crime. Yeah, you're going to pat yourself on the back, as you pointed out, a little bit. Let the investigation run its course. Be more vanilla, be more in the background, and represent the men and women of the FBI, the 36,000 employees, the 12,000 FBI agents that just want leadership.
Look, I get that the president wants charisma. I don't have any problem with Trump getting a pat on the back or his guys doing basically what he wants them to do. My problem is on who he picked. Okay? He picked 2 guys. I can't believe, I actually almost want to have a conversation with him. I asked Bill about it in the next segment, O'Reilly. I don't know why he picked these guys. Because whether it's Epstein or whether it's this investigation, these guys have been part of the problem. They've been fomenting lies that do not help the president. I mean, now they're taking credit for catching a guy that they used to say was a Democratic plant and that everybody knew who he was already. And now they go up there today and pretend like it didn't happen, like they did with Epstein once they raised their hand. Oh, he wasn't murdered. There's no proof of that. Oh, there is no client list. There's no proof of that. They must have made hundreds of thousands of dollars selling those things. So I don't fault the president for wanting charismatic guys. I just wish he had picked guys that don't make him look bad for picking them.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, here's the irony of ironies. Every single day, the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, and the deputy director, Dan Bongino, go to work on the 7th floor at FBI headquarters. In his book, Kash Patel's book, which you referenced, and he plugged when he mentioned that government gangsters in that podcast, in his book, he talked about day one at the FBI. If he was there, he would shut down the 7th floor and turn it into a museum for the deep state.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Chris, the irony in that, and then listening to some of the things that Bongino has said, the wild conspiracy theories, how do you walk that back and now have us take you as a serious, sober, responsible leader?
Just be candid. And they got a great opportunity to do it because this guy that they just caught, just like Mangione with the one-year anniversary as he's going through the process of administration of justice right now, they're the #1 threat in America. I mean, all of you guys say it. It's homegrown, fundamentalist political extremism. That is the #1 national security threat here. We have young men, not jihadis, some of them, but most of them know, just like this guy, who just hate the country and want to hurt it. They should just be talking about that all the time and move past the conspiracy BS.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Chris. And you pointed it out. It's the Ds, the disinfected, the disenfranchised, the disenchanted. And they go to the internet. And unfortunately, that's where many of them get radicalized. Now, turning quickly back to the investigation again, I heard the U.S. Attorney for D.C., Judge Janine, mention today that this guy did not have a big footprint. He didn't have a digital footprint. There wasn't a lot of social media postings, things like that. That's going to make it a little bit more difficult. And when you look at motivations, and you and I have worked and talked about enough of these type of crimes, whether it's mass shootings, terror attacks, political assassinations, when you look at them, you're searching for a motive. And Chris, as all too often happens of recent, this one may be a little difficult to pinpoint and to put into one characterization and blame one tribe.
You know why? Like my producer was just saying in my ear, yeah, they believe he's an anarchist. I don't invest in that anymore, and I'll tell you why. When I started going to riots 10, 15 years ago, and I started to see the Guy Fawkes masks, and people can Google him and figure out who he is and why they wear the mask. Anarchy, it doesn't mean, they're not part of a philosophy. It's not a political philosophy. They don't have an anti-state. They're just rejectors. They just hate. They just hate the system. They want to destroy it. They want to destroy everything that is normative. So I don't give them credit for the belief system anymore. It's like when someone says they're a libertarian, it's just a way of saying you're smarter than everybody else, but you're never in charge. So this guy represents the real threat. Organic animus. Hates the country, will do anything to make that point. What are we going to do about it? Hopefully we'll stop making things up and deal with what is real and right in our face. Jimmy, thank you for the candor. Thank you for the insight. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. James Gagliano, by the way, didn't just work at the FBI. He was also in the armed forces defending us at home and abroad for many years. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. He was also a mayor. I don't know why he did that, but he just likes to serve. This evening, we're learning that there's another strike on an alleged drug boat, okay? Again, I don't really get what this is about. I have to be honest, okay? I think that I don't get it. Well, why are they doing this? Why are you defending it? They should be pushed by Congress to make the case. But I don't get the political nature of being all in about defending people who are in a boat that's laden with drugs. I don't get it. I'm not saying I don't want due process. I'm not saying I want the death penalty automatic without any administration of justice. But is this the hill to die on? Bill O'Reilly was just with the president. What's going on with this? Because they're doing it more for a reason.
I saw 2 survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down for the United States, back over so they could stay in the fight. And potentially, given all the context we heard, of other narco-terrorist boats in the area coming to their aid.
I think it'd be hard to watch the series of videos and not be troubled by it. So I don't reach the same conclusion that Senator Cotton does.
Now, I have respect for both senators, but there's an expression. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And we are at a place where if you are on the right, you see one thing, and if you are on the left, you see another thing. Same video, Two different things, and that's not because eyewitness testimony varies. That's true, but this is also true. My point is, politically, I don't get where the left is coming from on this one. Look, I want due process. I think Congress should go after the president for unilateral military action that he is not authorized to do. But just like with the El Salvador thing about a gangbanger being removed from the country in a way the Democrats didn't like, is this the hill you want to die on? Defending the guys in a boatload of drugs heading towards our country? Anyway, let's bring in the big man, author of the New York Times best-selling book, over 20 best-selling books, by the way. This one is Confronting Evil. Bill O'Reilly, who was with the president last night, and he's got some tea. So, first of all, give us a little color about the night you had, but also segue into why they're doing more of these and like this fight.
Okay, so the White House is magnificent. Boy, I've been going there for 25 years around holiday time, and every part of the inside of it, just your almost mouth drops open, how nice it is. And it's an interesting play by President Trump. He believes in grandeur, that grandeur is attached to power. It's almost like Versailles, that if you have foreign people come to the White House and they just gobsmacked about the environment, that you immediately have an advantage, that you are at the top of the chart. But the portraits, and the president put up all the other presidents outside the Rose Garden, looks great. Oval Office, I was there for 40 minutes, never looked better. So just aesthetically, the Marine Corps band was there. Food was good. I didn't eat it, but everybody said it was good. All right, so then you want to get into the war on terror. So that's what everybody's forgetting about. This story is the war on terror. And if you trace it, and I have a really good debate with a colonel, a former JAG, on my YouTube. It's youtube.com/Bill O'Reilly. And it took place last night. And I believe I won the debate pretty handily because I brought in the history of the war on terror. That right after 9/11, all the rules of engagement changed about tracking down and eliminating terrorist threats to America. All the rules changed. No more Geneva Convention if the designation is that these people are terrorists. And that's what President Trump did to the Venezuelan drug cartels. So you can yell and scream and coons can run around and all of that. It's not going to change, and you're not going to win in court. But the strategy is to inhibit the drug cartels from moving in the Caribbean and in the Pacific Ocean, to stop it because they won't have anybody to carry the narcotics, to kind of strangle them from within. That is the anti-terrorist strategy. And as you said, there is no mass empathy for these people on the part of the American public. So it's a winning issue for the Trump administration.
I mean, look, I have a difference of opinion in terms of how it works with the designation, that you would rely on a 2001 authorization of use of military force, that Congress has sat back and allowed president after president after president to do this.
But that's called
politically. Yes, look, I know, and I don't like it. I don't like the president, but I agree with the political analysis, and I think it's a good issue for the president.
You are an American, and you can disagree all you want. But when you have, all right, President Bush the younger, Barack Obama, President Trump first term, not Biden so much, because Biden really didn't do anything.
He didn't do much.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Biden, then Trump too. When you have all of those presidents using the terror designation,
any way they wanted,
you can't win this. You can't.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's why I'm mad at Congress. I'm not mad at the president for using power the same way every other president has. And when they say, yeah, but he's doing it more and he's doing it in ways, look, it's subjective, but this is what happens when you establish a standard, is that now they have to live with it. But just politically, I get this. Here's the one I don't get that I need your help with. So I watched the clip of the president say, you know, his signature issue was gas and groceries. You and I talked about it a million times during the campaign. Cost of living, he called it. Now the Democrats call it affordability. He says this is a scam. They caused the problems. He's getting hanged now for not being aware of the pricing problems in this country. I don't understand that play. I understand this play with the drug boats. I don't understand why he's not leaning into taking on affordability so the Democrats don't take the issue from him, which I think is happening.
I think you'll see it after Christmas, after the first of the year. They're certainly aware of the poll numbers, and they're aware that Americans are disenchanted with the amount of money they have to spend to live. Now, the cost of oil is coming down, and coming down fairly consistently, except in California, which taxes their residents to an extent never before seen in this country. But everywhere else, the cost of a gallon of gas is coming down. So that's one thing that is, and this is interesting, very rarely reported. So on a week ago Friday, gas prices went below $3, and NBC and ABC News didn't even report it. And that's a strategy.
Well, it depends where you are, Bill.
No,
you know,
they didn't.
and
Well,
it's about
but the
why.
national
Gas
average,
prices are
Cuomo.
going down because demand is dropping.
Okay,
you know
whatever
what I mean?
it is,
it's
they're
not
going
as
down.
simple.
I tell people on my show, I tell people on my show,
Yeah.
don't buy steak. And you want the prices to go down? Don't buy steak. Okay, they'll go down. Buy chicken, buy tuna. That's how you get prices down. But it's the insurance prices that are killing everybody. And I discussed that with President Trump. I discussed it with him. I said, listen.
What do you say?
Well, their strategy is not well formulated right now, but the clock's ticking. And I said, Mr. President, and I only do this when asked. I don't like storm into the White House going, hey, you got to do this. That's not what I do. If somebody asks me, then I give them my opinion. And I did. I've done that for 5 presidents. I'm the president whisperer. So anyway, I said, look, there's almost so much you can do in a free marketplace. You could go out and say, hey, don't buy steak for a month, and steak prices will go down. If you do.
You could remove his tariffs.
But you've got to have tariffs. I don't believe that is a good strategy myself, because they're amassing so much money they can be able to pay down a debt, and that's coming. And that's going to be big.
Yeah, but I don't know that that's where the money is going. I mean, he wants to give the money back. He wants to fund different accounts.
It's up
and
to
it's
him.
about who's paying the money.
It's up to him.
You know what I mean?
But he makes the call.
Yeah, it is up
on
to
it.
him, unless he loses the lawsuits about the legality of the underlying tariffs to begin with.
And that's coming, but I don't
Which may be a gift to him.
I don't expect him to lose. I think it'll be 5-4 in his favor, because it's a national security situation. That's where it always goes back to the court. But anyway, the Republican Party, not just President Trump, they understand that they better get a way that Americans understand to lower healthcare insurance, to lower house insurance, car insurance. And the way to do that is to open it up so insurance companies can compete across state lines. Right now, the states strangle you because the states are in charge of insurance rates, and they're not doing a job. It's not 1 out of 50 that's doing it, policing. Okay? If you can pay Patrick Mahomes $10 million to jump up and down State Farm insurance, okay, you really need to pay him 10? Is that what you really need to do? Give the folks a break, but no. All right? So the Republican Party knows that if it goes past January and that Americans are not getting any relief in the insurance area, that they'll lose. Remember, Barack Obama, 2017, got waxed in his second midterm, blown out. And when Republicans ask me about it, I say, look at what happened to Mr. Obama. That could happen to you. But President Trump is ultra aware of this, okay? It is a big thing. He's annoyed by it. That's why you hear the affordability stuff, because he's annoyed by it, because that's not breaking his way right now. But he's aware of it, and I'd be stunned if he and Thune and Johnson, and I did suggest, I have to tell the NewsNation audience the truth, I said, you guys, you 3 have to get out there and answer questions. Have a big press conference. What are you going to do? And you got to do that fast in January. Whether they do it or not, it's up to them.
Bill O'Reilly, I appreciate you unpacking it and sharing a little of your night and some insight into what we are all watching in real time.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
I came back to do the Cuomo show. I'm in New York now. Now I came back
Thank you very much.
on the train to do this.
Really?
Cuomo. Yeah, on the train.
I appreciate you. Your level of commitment is unparalleled. Thank you very much. Be
Thanks
well.
for having me.
The break is 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Up next, a year ago today, a privileged, white, disaffected, yet rich, Ivy League educated loser, an insult to his Italian ethnicity, assassinated a healthcare CEO when he didn't even owe medical debt. He did it to make a point because he hates the country. And he is an example of what we're seeing more and more. So let's go away from the problem and go towards the solution. You know, these centrists in the government put up a plan to keep the ACA subsidies. Here's the problem. We only need the ACA subsidies because the costs are out of control. What can be done? A healthcare expert says there are answers if there's political will. What are they? Next. Everything about the healthcare CEO assassination disgusts me. Most of all, that so many were okay with it. And the reason why, because the system sucks, because the system is making them sick. It's killing them in some cases, bankrupting them in many cases. Now, at that time, leaders gave this perverse reaction to an assassination the lip service. Well, we get it. We get why they're... But then it faded. And then we had a shutdown about really one of the easiest aspects of our healthcare problem, which is the ACA subsidies. Affects about 22, 25 million people, but that's just about how much tax money you want to give to helping people pay because the prices are too high. And even on that, we shut down the government. So many people suffered so much for so long, but it's amounted to nothing. Now, today, a group of bipartisan House members put out their own plan to keep the ACA subsidies up for about 2 years. Good for them. But again, that is one aspect, one symptom. What is the disease and what is the remedy? Dr. Bill Hennessy, self-described whistleblower on healthcare costs. I took a look at what he's been putting out, and it jibes with a lot of what I hear from experts in the arena. And I want politicians and you to hear what he has to say. Doc, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here. Good evening.
So, in your study of the system, both as a practitioner and understanding the pay side, why are the costs increasing the way they are?
Because the prices are held secret for this $5 trillion industry. There can be no capitalism and competition when the prices are hidden. And there's 5 enemies to affordable healthcare costs. Their names are hospitals, Blue Shield, United, Cigna, and Aetna. They collude to keep the pricing secret, and they're partners in crime in driving up the costs.
And they get to keep it quiet because they stuff so much money in politicians' pockets. They're the #1 lobbying entity in this country, and they employ so many people. So you got to be careful about what you'll lose in your district if they're going to cut jobs because you make them cut costs. So now what we're hearing is, no. It's the ACA. The ACA, Obamacare is why prices are so high. What do you make of that?
Well, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I still want to give you a gold nugget of how it can be better for a lot of people that are blue-collar working America. There's 2 big issues that are adverse to America having affordable care in the ACA. One is called the medical loss ratio, the MLR. You have to spend 80% of your insurance money on care. That means of the other 20% comes your profit and administration fees. So I'll ask you this, you better off having $100 billion in revenue or $500 billion in revenue when your goal is to maximize that 20% for yourself. It's a perverse financial misalignment for incentive. The other one is before 2010, we all accepted it and it was standard. your cap was $1 million of care, of health insurance. That, even in today's world, should get you plenty of care for anything you need. So when they said, wow, we're just going to remove that care, you could die or be sick for $5 or $15 million. Now the multi-million-dollar claims came through because hospitals saw the opportunity and they capitalized on it.
So what would be the biggest thing politicians could do to bring down prices in the most places for the most people?
Well, let's talk the ACA first, because the subsidies. 99 out of 100 people only need care. They don't get hospitalized. Okay, so they are post-Obamacare, working age 27, pre-Medicare 64, 27. 1 in 100 to 1 in 120 needs insurance and gets hospitalized. That means over 99% just need care. They need a doctor visit, blood work, mammogram, screening, GI scope, routine care. Just imagine, instead of giving Blue Shield $400 a month for a subsidy, times 12 months, or nearly $5,000 for every person, and you gave that to every person. Everybody get the care they need. By the way, it's the taxpayers' money, so I think the money should go back to the taxpayers. And there's ways to do that, to have them only spend the money on healthcare, including using virtual or plastic Visa cards or MasterCards that have the 4-digit merchant category codes, so they must be spent on medical care. Almost nobody with that ACA, less than 10%, will ever meet their deductible. It's so high. So they have insurance for catastrophe, but 99 out of 100 of them just needed care. So give them the care, give them the money. You say, well, what about the catastrophe? This goes back to what I said, the good part of the ACA. $40 billion is how much nonprofit hospitals benefit by their nonprofit tax strategy. Now, me and you know, they're the wealthiest. They got the prettiest water fountains, the greatest sports suites that invite you to the game. They should take 10 or 20 billion of that, as the government demands, and they have to give back free and discounted care. 100 million people qualify for free and discounted care at nonprofit hospitals. So most of those that qualify for the subsidies, Chris, they're entitled to free care. And if you're in New York, you could be a family of 3 or 4 making 100 grand. You're entitled to free care. I repeat, free care at hospitals without insurance.
And let me tell you, charitable hospitals, as we used to call them, are a whole problem in their own. They call charitable care what they chase you down for, bankrupt you, and when you can't pay anymore, they write it off as charitable care. Doc, let's keep the conversation going as we see what they come up with on the government side. I appreciate your perspective.
Quite welcome.
All right, Dr. Bill Hennessy will speak again. 4 minutes and 15 seconds. You see, there are plenty of ideas. It's just about whether or not you have the will to try anything versus just blaming the other side. What do you think? Have your say. 844-968-7720. Remember the rule. All right, Dusty, who do you got?
No, we don't have any time for calls. We only have like 90 seconds. So I took a poll, and the whole audience wants to have an update on the drunken raccoon. So the drunken raccoon, and you say nobody cares. The New York Times covered it, the Evening News. The drunken raccoon.
No, nobody cares.
The drunken
This is what's killing America.
The drunken raccoon has been named Cole. He has been taken to a rehab facility and entered into a 12-step program. And when asked why he did it, he said this. But he's doing well, and he's in hiding because he heard that you had a hit out on him.
Let me ask you something. What do you think it says that this is what you find interesting?
It's not just me. The Evening News covered the story. The New York Times covered the story. The morning shows, Today's Show, Good Morning America, CBS This Morning. It's all over social media.
This is why America is losing.
Okay, but maybe America, in the midst of boats being blown up and men hanging off boats. Drug dealers are not drug dealers.
It's not my boat. It's a drug dealer a boat full of drugs.
The point
That's
is,
what pisses you off?
No, I'm saying maybe people need a little levity, and that a raccoon busting into a liquor store, drinking 14 bottles of alcohol, and passing out by a toilet.
How do you think the owner of that store feels?
I think he
Who's
loves the
already
attention.
getting killed by tariffs and price wages, and now he's got to cover that inventory and what that raccoon did to his ceiling, and he can't deal with his insurance because if he files a claim, they're going to ream him on the next bill?
You donate money to everybody. Give him some money, too.
The raccoon?
No, the
I'd
liquor
rather
store.
eat
The
it.
liquor store owner. Put him on your list of donations. Give him some of that mustache money.
That was from men's cancer research, by the way. That's why I did it. Look, that raccoon has one place he should be, okay? Dead.
Good.
All right?
Don't
We'll be right
say
back.
that.
All right, thank you for being with News Nation. We're going to look at the problems and we're going to talk about solutions whenever we can. And Leland Vittert takes that baton right now.
Again, a very tall order. My friend, good to see you, Chris.